Welcome back, Diecast collectors. I've got an antique store haul for you today. I really wasn't expecting to find so many goodies after my flea market haul, not all that long ago. And, well anyways, look at all the good stuff I got. I've got a bunch of Majorette super movers, some Ertl, some old Hot Wheels, some really interesting larger scale Hot Wheels. I don't normally collect the larger scale stuff, but these are 1/25th scale. Look at all this stuff a little closer. We're going to be cracking a lot of it open. And a few other odds and ends. We've got some old Matchbox with some very extravagant labels custom applied to the baggies that they were in. An old Winross truck. I didn't know anything about Winross until this one and did a little research on it. Got an AMT Ertl model kit, and I'll explain why I bought that in just a second. But also some cool stuff from Revell, an old hot truckin' from 2000. A very interesting 1/64 scale, highly detailed all-metal vehicle. And a Volkswagen from Husky. All this stuff is relatively the same scale with the exception of the Indy cars and the model kit. Let's start this video off with a Matchbox assortment. We've got everything from the 70s, the 80s, and I think even something from the 60s here. We'll start off with this Lesney King size. This is a K3 tractor shovel, as it's called on the base, all metal. And amazingly, it still has its plastic tires, despite being in absolutely terrible condition. It appears to me that it was probably vandalized by a young child, perhaps, or a drunken man. And someone who jammed maybe a pencil or something through the windows repeatedly, as we've all done probably in our childhood at some point or another. Interestingly, it still has the Hatra sticker on the one door. It is missing on the other. So I would think that this tractor probably was in fairly good condition up until at some point when it was abused. I did only pay $3 for this thing, Canadian, and just for finding 5 intact tires that I could use for spares on a future Hatra shovel, I think that was a bargain. So that's why I bought that. Then we've got this, a fairly rare paint job with tampo decoration of the Matchbox Dodge Challenger. We're going to get this out of this homemade plastic packaging that someone has lovingly created for the sale of this little vehicle at the antique store. Looks like they put quite a bit of a little bit of effort into it anyways. Not really sure why, but all for $7 Canadian. And there it is. It's actually in really good condition. It's just got a little bit of yellowing on the front windscreen, but really no chips to speak of, and the tampos are bright and shiny. Quite a valued addition to my collection. I did not have this one before. It's come out in about 5 or 6 colors that I know of, possibly quite a few more. But this one here is one of the harder paint jobs that you can find for this car. And it's one of my more favored Matchbox vehicles. The second third piece of Matchbox I bought was this little tank thing. It's a field gun number 32, made by Lesney. Probably circa late 60s, early 70s, and it should have been pulled behind some sort of vehicle with a hitch. Possibly this Jeep, which I had previously from my collection. Just like that. I do know that there's a number of Matchbox vehicles that feature hitches. And here's another one that I had. So I had 2 of these Jeeps originally and 1 field gun, but I really needed that second field gun to make a complete set for my little Jeeps. And now shifting our attention over to some Hot Wheels. We've got 6 interesting ones to show you here today. Most of them are 1/64 scale, but we do have these 2 interesting cars which we'll get to in just a second. The first one here is a Dodge Murata Stalker from 1982. That's when this one was released. It's got a few chips and whatnot, but at $3 I couldn't let it just sit there forlornly in a basket. So I did pick that one up, although I do have a mint one already. These ones are a bit more interesting here. This is the one I picked up today, and it is a rare light beige body on this vehicle compared to the normal dark beige and flat beige bodies that would have been found on these vehicles. These would have been released around 1986, I believe, but they were probably released for a couple years after that as well. You can see we've got a variation here to begin with the beige centered wheels versus the black wheels. Harder to tell perhaps on camera is the difference in the paint on these vehicles. This one has a glossy dark beige. This one has a light flat beige. And the one that I bought just recently today has a glossy light beige. So that makes it a third type of paint color for this vehicle. A lot of people don't really care for these types of variations as they're getting pretty minute, but I do collect every Hot Wheel ever existed from 1974 to 94. And I am going to be cracking this one open even though it's on a beautiful card. Something has gone on terribly wrong in the package for this vehicle, and there seems to be a beige crust or crumb of plastic on the bottom, making it look just terrible in the blister. There's the back of the packaging, 1983. So perhaps released earlier than 86 as I first mentioned. I think these ones here were the 86, but this may be a first release. 83 or so. See if we can salvage the cardboard somewhat, not open it up too aggressively. And also contain all that, whatever it is, in the bottom of this thing. You can see. I don't know what that is, but we'll find out hopefully shortly. The truck has some dusty wheels from rolling around in all that plastic for the last 33 years, as it would be, 2016. This truck is just as old as I am, actually. Not really sure where all that plastic came from. Let's just see if we can do a comparison here without mixing everything up. Look at the difference in the plastic on these trucks. Got a completely different coloration of the plastic. Not sure if the camera's picking this up. Completely different color of the body for that one. And same for this one as well. So we've got a much darker beige example here on the left that I just purchased. Even the plastic is a different color beige. So that is a variation for this vehicle, and hopefully it's showing up on camera for you guys. There they are, all three variations. So moving right along, let's take a look at these cars here. An interesting 1/24th or 1/25th scale Indy car, I do believe. These were produced in France, probably around the mid to late 1980s, just based on the packaging, although there is no copyright and very little information online about these vehicles. We are going to be opening them both up. The second one here is red, as you can see, but the packaging is the same. And also I'll just grab the decal sheet, which is also in the packaging, as these appear to have been decorated from the factory only on one side, and it would appear that they encourage the purchaser to decorate the other side with the decals provided in the package. In any case, the person who has applied the stickers has done a very good job, although having only done half the car. They feature almost like a co-mold plastic style wheel. Ferrari 126C, made in Italy. Scale 1/25th. Plastic base. Fairly robust, heavy vehicles. We'll get that second one. Super Hot Wheels, it says up in the top left. That one out of the package as well. And it too was decorated only on one side. I only paid $15 Canadian for these. I thought that was a pretty good deal. I had no idea what they were worth, and I still don't, but as far as an interesting vehicle, I'd say it qualifies. This one appears to have had no stickers removed from the sheet. I don't see any spaces, so perhaps some stickers did come from the factory already installed, but once again the other side is blank. This one is an Alfa Romeo 179, scale 1/25, also made in Italy. Pretty cool cars side by side, especially if you're an Indy car, or maybe these are Formula One. I'm not really sure actually. I'm not familiar on the IndyCar and Formula One, as it was pointed out in my last flea market video when I did not acknowledge a Majorette car of some significance. And once again, I have been lucky enough to find myself 3 more Majorette super movers, 1/60th scale trucks. We've looked at those just in the previous video as well, and here's 3 more. So how very, very fortunate. I'll get a few of these other cars out of the way so we can have a look at those before we get into the rest of the haul that I have today. Awesome to be able to find more of these vehicles, and this time fully in a package. The package is not 100% condition, but I don't really care. I have no intention of selling these things. They're from series 3040 to 3070, made by Majorette. Here's the back. You can see a whole array of these large 1/60th scale vehicles. We did just look at that truck yesterday, and I do have that one already. Not all of them are included on these backgrounds, and there literally are tens, if not hundreds, of different varieties of these vehicles sold throughout the world. All the packaging is the same on these 3 particular vehicles that I bought. Here we have a tri-axle, larger sized Shell tanker. And I say larger because I'm comparing it to the Shell tankers I've had in previous releases. This one is a more squat type oval tanker, whereas this one is like a large circle in a way. You can get those. The back, you can see the height difference of the one with the ladder on the back versus the one with the Shell emblem. Both are Shell trucks. All 3 feature the exact same cab in various colors. I actually have 14 more of these coming in the mail in the next couple weeks. As I went online to price check these as I was picking them up at the flea market, or the antique store that I was at, and randomly stumbled across an extremely rare opportunity to buy an entire lot. It was actually 3 lots of these. This one was not in the lot of 14 that I have coming my way, and for that reason we're going to open this one up and take a nice close look at it. Really, these just slide out of the cardboard. There's no wrecking of the packaging that way, but as I've discovered in my previous video, sometimes these plastic blisters can be troublesome to open. Apparently not on this particular packaging. That just opened up by itself. So that was either open before, looks like it may have been sliced. Someone may have opened these to display them and retain the packaging. But here is the big truck. You can see this thing is 1/60th scale. Opening hood. Let's zoom in on some of the details on this thing. It's got mirrors and exhaust stacks, gas tanks, suspension even. There's the suspension, independent suspension. There's the scale just behind the front axle, 1/60th. And made in France by Majorette. So that is a close-up look at the cab. Like I said, all 3 cabs are going to be the same. This trailer is really quite cool. It's got the flip-down stand, so if you need to park your trailer somewhere, but 3 axles on this one. I don't have any of these trailers with 3 axles. So given that we can open this one up, I'll check the other ones to see if we can just open them up carefully and nicely. And let's go ahead and do that. I'll tilt this camera down because it's pointed at the sky. Really nice big vehicles, and as you can see, perfect scale for the rest of any vehicle really. We've got a Matchbox there. Bring a Hot Wheel into the mix. They're all pretty much the right size versus some of the smaller scale Majorette vehicles, Matchbox trucks, and Hot Wheels trucks even. Majorette is really the only mainstream brand that I collect, other than the new ones such as Greenlight and M2, that used to make these large-scale proportionate vehicles to Hot Wheels. And so when you compare this vehicle to, for instance, a Hot Wheels steering rig, you may be familiar with these trucks. It had the steering wheel on the back. Very cool, all metal, very heavy, quality built piece. However, the scale on these was more like 1/87th to 1/100th versus the sheer size of the Majorette truck in the proportionate scale. A regular Hot Wheels and Matchbox car actually don't look right next to these steering rigs, and most trucks really created by Matchbox and Hot Wheels of the past. Even this Army troop carrier that we looked at earlier is totally off scale with most Hot Wheels and Matchbox. Not the case with the Majorette Super Movers, and that is why they are my favorite transport trucks to collect from the past. And if you can't find these things, I really suggest you look at M2 and Greenlight, as they do make 1/64 scale true sized vehicles. Moving on, however, let's get that other shell truck out of the packaging, assuming that perhaps this person that used to own these vehicles also opened them carefully. And he did. Isn't that awesome? That is awesome. I really wasn't happy not to open them for you guys on camera immediately, even having a second set coming. But here we go. Mostly metal trailer, the top is plastic. Just wonderful. Big scale models. Now we've got both shell trucks side by side. Just huge trucks. Wicked. Oh, I just love these big trucks. They're so much fun to play with. Alright, let's get the other one out. Oh, interesting. This one is not open. This came from a different collection, or at a time when previous guy didn't want to open them up. As I said, I do have one of these coming already, but I'm kind of in the mood to open them. I'm not really collecting these things for monetary future value, so that's probably how I should open the last ones. But they didn't have the cardboard, so it didn't really matter as far as completing the package. Ultramar. That's where you get the good gas. Well, Shell as well. Shell has good gas. But Ultramar has the 94 octane here in Canada, which is nice. Another opening hood on this one. Another nice big tank. Same style tank as the Shell truck. Same exact vehicle, really, just different paint jobs. So, wow, I can't believe I got 14 more of these coming. I'm going to have to do a Majorette truck video in its entirety because these things just, I just love them. While we're talking big 1/60th or 1/64 scale trucks and smaller ones, let's look at this brand new Winross truck to my collection. It's not actually brand new. It was probably released around the early 2000s, I think, based on some brief research I did on it. This one here is, like I said, made by a company called Winross. If you haven't heard of them, wow, the wheel just fell off. This is an unscripted video, guys, so this is why this stuff happens. But anyways, made by a company called Winross. The company is located near Rochester, New York, made in the USA. And they've been around since 1963. All this company does is make trucks. These trucks are made in the USA. There's no overseas manufacturing going on with these things. The whole thing is metal. There isn't one plastic component on it other than perhaps the rubber of the tires by the looks of it. Extremely heavy, and this company's been making of just a small assortment of cabs. So there's only 14 different cabs that you can actually purchase from the company, which is still in existence. And the cabs are very detailed. However, there is no windows or interior in any of their models, even to this date, which I thought was a little bit curious. I'm not really sure why a company would, it's some sort of styling cue or heritage thing, I guess, but why would you skip out on a few plastic parts that would really tie this truck together, especially when there's so much attention to detail put into the rest of it, as well as what appears to be fairly quality work on the construction of it. Check out these independent rear suspensions for the rear axles, true dualies, steel pin axles. Everything is metal. There is no plastic on this thing at all. Here's the Winross Rochester, New York stamp on the bottom. Even the front has a suspension. The fenders are individually molded from the body of the truck. This is not plastic, this is metal as well. It's die cast, as is the, whatever you want to call this thing, the windbreaker on the top of the truck. So anyways, really cool truck, perfectly scaled with other vehicles. As you can see next to a Majorette truck, this thing fits in really quite at home, other than the lack of interior and window. It's actually more realistic and heavier built than the Majorette trucks. The fifth wheel attachment here is pretty solid. And this trailer is all metal. There's no plastic on it. It's got opening doors. Apart from the wheel that fell off, it seems to be quite robust. Suspension on it as well. Some sort of furniture company here has their decoration on the side of it, but this is what the company of Winross was known for, apparently, was used as mostly as a sponsor type promotional platform for collectors and for companies in advertising. So apparently these, they're silk screen, not tampos. They're silk screen, not stickers either. Applications on the sides. These are interchangeable sides that actually slide into the frame of the box of the trailer, and other than a few extra silk screens sometimes on the tops of the trailers, not in this case, but this one has it on the door. That's how they achieved the difference in the vehicles. Otherwise they are basically all the same, a few different colors of the cabs and whatnot, trailers, but kind of cool. Very well scaled again to your 1/64 scale collection. I was considering getting into collecting these after finding this one today, but I don't know. There's a lot of different ones and not very much variety in the vehicles themselves, and really not much of a collector following on this stuff as of yet that I'm aware of. These things are actually very cheap on eBay if you do want to pick some of these up for your train setup or whatever. Just parking the truck right now, and then we're going to look at the last of the vehicles. Perfect. So we've got a few left to look at. This one was also a handmade little thingy here from somebody. It's a Husky. Fairly hard vehicle to find, actually. All metal. Nice little piece. Volkswagen 1300. It's got a whole bunch of luggage and stuff on the roof. Steel centered rims with hard plastic tires. Made in Great Britain. Pretty cool. Paid $15 for that. It's not mint by any means, of course, but just a cool little piece. Goes nicely with the collection. Another vehicle I had never seen before was this Revell, made by Revell, more known for, to me anyways, for making plastic 1/25th scale model kits and 1/18th scale metal trucks and cars. We've got this Dodge Ram Custom, a Dodge Ram Custom, pretty cool truck as pictured, opening hood, a lot of detail, almost reminiscent of like a Greenlight or M2 or something. Hot trucking, you can pause on there if you want to hear more about that. 6 in the series, although a quick eBay search did reveal multiple color combinations for the same vehicles. Kind of curious to open that one up, as I don't collect things on the card that really isn't much point. Not in my collection anyways. I don't have the space for all this packaging, so I'll get that out of the way. And there you have it, a really nice true 1/64 scale Dodge Ram. Much like the Greenlight vehicles of today, it has painted mirrors, and this was released in 2001 according to the packaging. So long before those other companies were out, more in the time of Johnny Lightning and whatnot. See what's lurking under the hood. We've got a detailed little engine with a radiator, rubber tires, ground effects kit. Nice, very nicely detailed chassis actually. There you go. So pretty cool. Looks nice next to, again, the typical 1/64 scale collectibles. As does this Ertl farm machines. We've got an Ertl replica farm machines. Now Ertl has been making replica tractors since I think the 1950s, if not earlier. This is what they were known for and are still the world standard and leaders in creating the most detailed and most quantity of tractors, die-cast tractors, in all scales, including this 1/64 scaled. What was it? I can't even remember. A case 7130 International tractor, made by International, I guess. It's got stickers on it. They're not tampos or anything, but these are pretty cool. So $5, I couldn't resist picking one of those up. That's an older one. This is a 1996 release, or 92, one or the other. But again, proper scale. Everything's in scale here. I'm really all about scale nowadays. Lastly, we've got a couple things left here, and that was this 1958 edsel Pacer. Not a typical scale that you would see in my videos. This is 1/24th scale, I believe. I thought this was hand painted when I bought it. It was just sitting on the shelf as you see it right now. And I assumed that somebody had painted this thing very well. You can see the base has got some overspray and stuff. What I didn't really see was a telltale sign such as that stamped number behind the exhaust pipe. This thing is made entirely of plastic. And I used to make these cars, these kit cars, a few years ago. So I just assumed it was a very well detailed handmade vehicle. But in fact, these are pre-decorated, made by Ertl or Revell. AMT, sorry. Made by AMT. Very nicely detailed dashboard. But you know, you'd expect that on these larger scale cars. It's got the rolling wheels, all plastic. Not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I just kind of impulse buy, and I want to share that with you guys about these cars. Pretty cool. Not really sure if it's a new thing. I think they're fairly new. I don't think this is all that old. Most likely I'll give it probably a rusting treatment and send it to the junkyard. And lastly, whenever you buy a lot of cars, if you can find a case, pick it up. $10 for this probably 2001 or 2002 release case. So I need that for all this stuff. Hope you enjoyed this haul, and stay tuned for lots more videos. Thanks guys. Happy hunting.